Live from the booth at Pops, it's time for the Riverdale Review! Welcome back, pals, to another episode of the Riverdale Review. We're back in the booth this week after a week off for the Thanksgiving break. It is good to be here. I am your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my pals in podcasting, Mr. Kale Ward.
I never get enough while I'm here. I always like, we come to Pops and we order all this food, but I'm never full. I might have a problem.
Most definitely.
Maybe you just need to order more food.
I don't have that kind of money.
I got you, maybe. And Mr. Marco Cunalata.
Pops, I'm expecting a call, so if you hear anything, just swing on by.
Solid.
Is that a weird reference to what happened in the show?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
I
just want to make sure.
But it could be. No, now it could be. It is. That was premeditated. I knew that was. Yes, it was definitely a reference.
That was a bit that we are now explaining on the air. Yes, what a great podcast we have here. And then joining us in the booth to round out our foursome today is Amoona Saohin.
Hi, I'm Amoona Saohin, and I'm a comics professional person. I am here to my very intense about Riverdale. Very, very important. The show of our time.
The show of our time.
It is the show of our time.
I think that's a fair assessment, I have to say.
I think we just found a new tagline for the podcast.
The Riverdale Review, the show of our time.
It is the show of our time. It truly is.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously watching the show after the episode is just as much a part of the experience. So, real quick, you're an editor over at Titan, right?
Yes, I work at Titan Comics. I am officially an editorial art editor, but I also edit comics completely by myself. Mostly the Warhammer line, and I also edit the Sherlock comic, which everybody should check out.
Plugs.
Oh, cool.
Speaking of which, do you want to tell the listeners at home where they can find you online, where they can connect with you?
I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and I have a website, but it's mostly promoting me as an artist, because I am, even though I don't work as an artist professionally, but I love making art.
Cool, yeah, great.
And it's at Amoona.net.
And then what's your tag on social?
You can search me I think on Twitter I'm Amoona Saohin, but on Instagram I am Amoonstagram.
That's a good one.
Nice.
So you managed to get the domain Amoona.net? Did you get it when you were like 3? Like how did you nail that?
Oh god, no. I was like 17 and nobody was on the internet then.
Are we dating ourselves too much here? All right.
Well, I'm 25, but it's been a while. I couldn't get Amoona.com though. That was like expensive.
Sure. Yeah, .coms used to cost a lot more money. Awesome. Well, we're so happy to have you in the booth today. So like we always do, let's start the episode off by talking about our spoiler-free, thoughts on the episode. Amoona, since you're our guest, why don't you start?
Thoughts on the episode. Like, I just watched it this morning, and I just keep feeling like the characters, like, I love them so much, but they won't do what I want them to do. And I feel like everybody's like messing up. It's like, if you could just let me control you, I would be able to make you do the right decisions.
You teenagers, why don't you act like adults?
Yeah, that's basically my feelings about it most of the time. And like, I don't know what to say. It's like they keep twisting and turning, and I don't know.
I thought this was a really strong episode. You know, I think in terms of direction, I think it was actually one of my favorites. I think like the way it was shot was really, really strong.
Yeah, it was like split. It was 3 parts.
Yeah, and the way that like the episode kept crossing over in like the very small ways of just, you know, you'd see a scene and then the scene would come up again, you know, later on from a different perspective. And just the way that they played with, you know, music and like the camera angles to really like play up the horror of the situations, I thought was really, really strong this episode.
Yeah, it was a real solid, like Pulp Fiction-y kind of crossover, a bunch of moments set in a certain amount of time.
Yeah, and it just felt very tight. You know, like it reminded me almost of like a heist movie. You know how there's always like usually like a few groups of characters and you're cut. You know, like But instead of that, it was like we just got each character's story presented to us in a really just condensed way, right? It was this plot, this plot, this plot. And considering Riverdale's usually, they're so packed with content in every episode, all the jumping around can definitely be, not necessarily hard to follow, but I think sometimes it like almost tires you out a little bit, because like...
Yeah, it feels fast.
Yeah, and I feel like the pacing felt so much stronger this episode because we just got to focus on the story at hand and get resolution.
I always felt like the cinematography and generally how it's shot is on a different level in comparison to the other CW shows. It's something I
absolutely
enjoyed on Riverdale.
Yeah, I think it was on the first episode of this season of Riverdale Review where Andy said that like some of the best directors on television are working on Riverdale, and I think that's apparent often, but I feel like it was very apparent to me this episode of just the caliber of talent they have at the helm, and even just with like the score. Marco, as like another huge music guy, what did you think about all this stuff? The direction and like the use of like the musical themes.
Yeah, I like the song that Josie kept playing. Like they used that a couple times. Like it was basically like a motif throughout. Like whenever something would happen, some kind of reveal, or it would be some kind of like you said, like play up the horror in this episode. And yeah, I echoed a lot of your statements on just like the direction, the way they sort of had gotten the angles. Overall, it was strong. The one thing that threw me off was like the opening crawl, like the very first. I was like, what's going on? I could have sworn I clicked on the wrong show. I'm like, oh, like what's going on? And then it mentioned like the people of Riverdale. I was like, oh no, this is it. It was like it was jarring, and then like it got into it, and I was like, okay, I get why they did that. It could have that part could have been executed a little bit better. But I felt like the rest of it was the solid.
Yeah, we could talk a little bit more about that in the spoiler full section. But yeah, I thought that was a little strange too. So Kill, what were your thoughts on the episode?
I actually wasn't crazy about it. I do agree with you on all the points you said. I think it was very strong, directorially. I think the cinematography and the music were on point. For me, the characters, it felt sort of underserved, except for like the couple of like big revelations that we had in the episode.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested to hear more about that. But
for me, like it felt like because these were like, it was almost like an anthology series, where it's focusing on, like we said, focusing on the different characters and the different things they do. But because of that, I feel like they had to sort of boil down the characters to like their essential kind of aspects.
Okay.
And so like in the case of like Cheryl, we sort of missed quite a bit, or like Josie. I feel like there were things that we missed that would have been served really well had it been a full episode.
Okay, yeah, I could see that now that you frame it that way, and I don't think we can talk about it too much more without getting into spoilers. So unless anybody has any closing thoughts on the episode before we move on. All right, cool. This is your opportunity to jump out if you haven't seen the episode yet, and you just wanted to get our early impressions. I think the most of us seem to like it, but your mileage may vary on some of the not directorial choices, but I suppose pacing choices. If you do care about spoilers, now's your chance to bounce out. Remember that you can connect with the show, by writing into us at thecomicspals@gmail.com or hitting us up at thecomicspals, anywhere your social media is sold, with your questions, comments, thoughts on the show, and, you might be able to hear them right on the air. We'd love to hear from you. So otherwise, we'll see you next week. Let's get into the spoiler full section. So I wanted to start at the beginning with the intro. Marco already kind of shared some of his thoughts, but did anybody else want to weigh in on this kind of weird unsolved mysteries revealed intro that they pulled out here?
I sort of wish they committed to it, because they did that opening crawl, but they didn't close it out the same way, And
it never comes up again.
Yeah.
And the thing I thought was so weird about it is all of the content of it is not in the episode. Like, they tease all this stuff. They say that it's the 3 twisted tales known as the Black Hood murders, and that, you know, like, the people who bore witness were so young and all this stuff, and that it started with the letter at the chocolate shop. Okay, that's all we saw. Like, none of the other things that it promised have happened. So it felt like a weird framing device for me.
But the 3 were the way it was split out in 3. Like, it followed, like, those paths. Yeah,
but nobody got murdered. That's the thing, is they say it's the Black Hood murders. So I'm guessing these 3 stories are going to be the start of 3 people getting murdered, but...
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think to Kale's point, I felt it was kind of weird. Like, they didn't really commit to the bit.
Or, in sort of the case of what you're talking about, it's sort of... They didn't really commit to the text of the bit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you're going to tell us what happened before the episode starts, make sure the episode does what it says.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's one of the things that happens to me sometimes when I watch Riverdale, when, like, some of the, not necessarily cliffhangers, but some of the ways that it deals with story make it really apparent that it's made for binging. You know, that it's, like, meant to be watched one right after the other. Because I'm sure 3 weeks from now or whatever, once we've gotten the resolution of this, that makes sense as a piece. But sitting here with just that little sliver and really nothing else feeding into it, it felt weird. It feels so disconnected from the stories we were actually told.
Yeah, well, I think maybe it's meant to, like, disconnect sort of from how the show has been going. Because it felt like an anthology, like a horror anthology.
Yeah.
And that's, like, I thought of it was, that's how they wanted to separate this episode from how it's been going so smoothly right now, by just having these 3 stories told in one go. But yeah, I see what you mean. Like, if I watched it, if I watched it all in one go, I would find it weird, like this particular episode.
Yeah.
Because of that opening.
Yeah, especially because when you think about it, the opening moment of the of the show is, after that we get the letter being found at Pops, right? And Pops and, Sheriff Keller and Mayor McCoy are there reading it, right? And we get the threat that, you know, the next 48 hours are going to be a test and, you know, like, show that you're pure and I'm going to stop. If not, I'm going to pick up the sword again, right? And at the end of the episode, we get kind of the resolution of that where he's like, oh, okay, you're all still sinners, I'm coming. But that feels so vaguely connected to the things that we actually saw go down. Like, yeah, sure, there was a lot of story with sin involved here, but that's every episode of Riverdale. You know,
yeah,
so
it's a CW show, like.
Right. And then, I mean, that's the whole arc of this season, right? Is that, you know, the first season was about how, Riverdale's this town with dirty little secrets, and this one is, well, there's, you know, someone here to clean house. And, you know, I just felt like I don't know what it added to the conversation other than, I guess, to be fair, it did make us have this conversation, right? Of, well, what does it mean?
Yeah.
So do you guys think that these 3 twisted tales mean that, like, these people from these groups, someone's going to get murdered?
That is the implication, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I have a hard time thinking that.
Yeah, I think somebody's going to get murdered, but maybe not those people.
Yeah, because the main characters of these 3 stories were basically, like, the 6 main characters of the show, you know, with the exception of...
And also Kevin was there.
And also Kevin, yeah. But, like, it, you know, I could see maybe, like, one of the Pussycats or Mayor McCoy or Sheriff Keller. Or, man, I hope, you know, Penny, what's her name? Penny Pitstop or whatever the hell.
Penny Pitstop!
Isn't like Penny Penbridge or something? I don't know.
Penny Peabody.
Oh, okay. That was it.
Oh, yeah.
For you youngins, Penelope Pitstop is the name of the character, the only woman driver in Wacky Races. So the
more you know.
You young folk might not know that.
Thanks, Grandpa.
just while we're on that subject of how old I am. Do you guys remember? Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yes.
That's what this episode reminded me of. It was basically like a teen Nickelodeon horror anthology. It was on Snick. It was sort of the late night Nickelodeon teen aimed programming.
Amoona's face right now, she's like, what the fuck? Must be an American thing.
Well, I did watch Nickelodeon, but it was mostly cartoons. So.
Yeah.
Was that a cartoon?
That was like an early 90s thing. It was live action.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think you're right. Because what was interesting about it, I thought, was this episode was like kind of the first one in a long time where there wasn't a lot of really present danger. You know, like there were a lot of dangerous situations, but all of the like horror elements, the big horror shots, were all normal situations. You know, like Josie walking into the shower, you know, and being confronted. Like, and we'll talk about some of the actual moments later, but like, it was so interesting to me the way it played horror when like there's a literal serial killer looming over the town, and like it's these very mundane human fear scenarios that get played for horror. So the show, like we said, kind of pretty conveniently broke up the character plots for us this time around. So just like they did, let's start with Archie and Jughead. So, their, storyline this time around kind of, loosely picks up from where we were last time, right? Penny Peabody says she's calling in her favor. She, tricks Jughead into, going and running this, errand for her where, he's gonna, like, take what, are implied to be drugs, but I want to talk about that a little bit, to Greendale, and she gets him there under the guise of the fact that FP's been jumped in jail and attacked by ghoulies, that the only way that she's going to be able to get him out is that if Jughead does this, and, she has the money that she needs to help him get off early. So, he agrees. He gets Archie involved because, Archie owes him one, I guess, because of the whole business with the race, right? So let's talk about this crate a little bit. So, first of all, this crate is fucking huge. Like, this is if this is drugs, this is a lot of drugs.
It's cartoonishly huge.
Yeah, and it's got, like, chains on it. And did you guys make out the text that was on it?
No,
I didn't see it.
So I rewound this episode about 100 fucking times to get this. So it said on it, "Do not open Miskatonic University via H.P. Lovecraft. Polar Expedition, January 13th, 1923.
What?
Huh.
Right.
That was on, when did you?
That's on the crate. So when they bring the crate in, they put it down, and there's a couple shots where you can see the text on it. And I paused it to look, and I wrote it down.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder what that's a reference to.
I do too, and I wonder if it's just a reference or like so here's my theory, right? There's all this imagery and all this talk about Greendale.
Oh my God.
This episode, and the magic. There's, we know that Sabrina's coming. Do you think it's something supernatural in the crate?
That's where I thought this section was going. I thought we were like gonna meet Sabrina, and I didn't know how I didn't already find that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was something like when Jughead got into the car with that dude, I was like, oh man, like this guy is being like, he has a hat on, like what's going on? He's acting all shady. And legit, I was like, what is this, like gothic horror? And then like Jughead like later was like, oh, like an American gothic. I was like, oh snap, Conan!
He was what I think in Cabin in the Woods, I think they call him the Herald. Oh, y'all going way up there, huh?
Yeah.
Up to Greendale, there's a bunch of magic up there. You better turn around now.
But yeah, I thought the same exact thing. I was like, okay, Greendale, you have to transport this to Greendale, and then like they broke down, right? And then that guy appeared. Then Archie saw the deer. And then there was just like a bunch of stuff like right at
it was like the freeze on the sign.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I thought it was alluding to like the news that we had.
Yeah, about Sabrina.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to do the news segment, but this is
Should we bring
actually a
that up
perfect
now?
opportunity to talk about it. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah, I was trying to lead it there. No, I was trying to lead it there.
No, you did a really good job. Thank you, because I intended to put that in before the spoiler full section, but we were already like raring to go, so I kind of forgot about it. So yeah, thank you. So yeah, we'll put a pin in the discussion of the spooky man, and let's talk a little bit about some of the news this week that came out around the Riverdale spinoff about Sabrina. Yeah, that we've had not necessarily teased. It's been promised. We knew it was coming. We knew it was in development, but we weren't sure when it was going to air, where it was going to air. So the Hollywood Reporter is reporting that the show has already been confirmed for a 2-season, 20-episode straight-to-series order for Netflix. So
22 episodes?
No, 2-season, 20 episodes.
Oh, total.
Per season or total?
Yeah, that's what it says. It's so I'll read it to you right here, right? It says, the streaming giant has handed out sorry. First of all, let me give attribution here. This is by Leslie Goldberg over at The Hollywood Reporter. Thank you, Leslie. So Leslie writes, the streaming giant has handed out a sizable 2-season, 20-episode straight-to-series order for an untitled Sabrina drama based on the Archie Comics graphic novel The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, picked up the intended Riverdale companion series from the CW. So, yeah, this is, confirming everything we said. Now we just know it's getting a two-season deal, and we're getting 20 episodes. And then it's supposed to come sometime in they said that they're shooting right now for the 2018-2019 broadcast season as a companion series. So I don't know if that means it's going to be coming out around the same time or whatever, but they're saying here they're going to shoot for 2 10-episode seasons that would shoot back-to-back, with the first film batching from February to June and the second one from June to October. So it sounds like they're going to kind of switch hands.
Nice.
So if that's the case, you'll be able to have the Greendale review.
Amoona, have you read The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina?
No, I haven't. My only experience of Sabrina the Witch is the old TV show.
Oh my god.
And like the cartoon as well. And I loved it a lot.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I understand that this new show is going to be more horror.
So one of the first things that happens in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is there's like, to put it mildly, they summon Satan.
Right.
And I'm sure at some point there's like a cult orgy thing.
There is a cult. Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is.
Oh, sorry. Just your reaction to that, Amoona, was great. You're just like, oh, okay, yeah. Summon Satan. All right, good.
That's my jam. I love gothic.
I fucking love Satan.
The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina for you, now. Man.
Mock Satanus.
Yeah. I haven't heard this news until like just recently, as I told you already. So I'm actually quite psyched for that. Like, I thought that they were gonna do some sort of a crossover.
Yeah.
Like, soonish.
Like similar to what they did with Arrow and the Flash, how Barry Allen showed up on Arrow first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was actually going to happen exactly like that, because I thought that was like a CW thing now. Just test out, like, the waters.
I feel like it's still possible. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if it'll be the first time that we meet Sabrina, but I do think that at some point they'll touch. Even though this is going on Netflix instead of the CW, this really probably shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, because Riverdale has like a very close relationship with Netflix. Outside of the States, I know that's like the primary way that it's like delivered, right? I think in Australia, it's like weekly there, not on television, right?
Well, I don't know about Australia, but in New Zealand it comes out weekly. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know.
I forgot it's that way there for you as well.
For you guys, Pete, does it say a Netflix original in the opening credits?
No.
Yeah, it does. It does for us. Like,
I know that it has that relationship.
Yeah,
and there's literally a quote in the article where a representative says that, like, a lot of people watched it and thought it was a Netflix show. So that relationship there makes sense.
Interesting.
So, keep your ears to the ground. We'll talk to you guys about it as we get more information. And if we like the show, maybe we'll tune in for extra episodes of this show to do that. So let's, we'll get back to the matter at hand here, though. So, like Marco said, right, when Archie and Jug break down while they're going to deliver this crate full of God knows what, they encounter pancake mix, right? So they encounter this very, very sketchy stranger who offers to take them the rest of the way for Jughead's $18.
Yeah, and, rude. Like, how do you just ask for money?
Because he definitely could tell they were doing something illegal, and he was trying to extort them.
And like fuel money, like I get that part, like that,
Yeah, I don't think he was doing it to be neighborly.
No, he looked like, I don't know how Jughead thought he could get in with that guy and coming out of it like alive. He looked like he was gonna kill him.
Yeah, especially just like he has like he's got like the most like stereotypical like what was the word you used for it from Cabin in the Woods?
The Herald.
The Herald, like it's so on the nose of just like he's got this big hat and this broken down like country bumpkin truck with like missing teeth or whatever, and it's just like he's listening to this like doomsday preacher on the radio talking about how the Black Hood is like an agent of God and all this stuff, and it's just like, oh no, like we're in bad country here, Jughead. Like, but so we get this kind of new wrinkle in the case, I think, from this guy where he talks about a previous killer who had been known to the area called the Riverdale Reaper. So, they end up stopping for gas and they get dinner together. They talk a little bit more about this figure. And this was another one of the scenes I really liked. I want to know if you guys picked up on this as well. The shot from behind of him cutting the meat, and it just looked so bloody, and just how intensely he was kind of cutting it. Just another example of that, mundane situation being played for horror with just good shooting,
Love it. It felt so, like, I don't know how to explain it. It felt very noir.
That particular shot reminded me of like the opening like salvo sequence of Dexter.
Sure.
How he gets ready in the morning and it's all like it looks like he could be tying his shoelaces and strangling a body and like cutting up his ham and eggs.
Totally, yeah, and it just has this very like visceral kind of feel. It's uncomfortable,
Like, and that meat, what I assume was meat, was like so dark and red. I thought it was beets.
I like how like they showed him
those beets.
Like they showed him like drizzle ketchup on it, and I wonder if that was supposed to be our cue of like, oh, that's why it's so red. But like, just the way it looked was very unsettling, and even like Jug's reaction to him eating, has this kind of like feeling of disgust, But so we get the story, right? That there was this family out near Fox Forest who was like murdered in the middle of the night with a shotgun. And, he kind of insinuates that he thinks, some people feel like he never left Riverdale and he wouldn't be surprised if the Hood was the same guy, that it was just like a repeated kind of like cycle of violence, right? And I wanted to ask, what did you guys think about this theory? Like, do you think it's possible that the Reaper is the Hood?
I thought he was just talking to freak Jughead. I don't know. He seemed like a crazy dude.
Sure.
Maybe he had something to do with it. But I don't know. I think he was there to just give us this kind of, like, as you said, because like the whole situation felt very ominous and very like something's gonna happen. And I felt like that was his purpose there. And like maybe the story is connected to the serial killer. But at this point, it just feels like reaching because it is like a legend and like nobody has talked about this Reaper.
Sure. Yeah, that's the thing I thought was interesting is like, is this supposed to just be a red herring or is this guy a Deus Ex Machina? Because Jughead, after, the guy tries to like pull a dine and dash and rob him basically, and Archie shows up at the 11th hour to save the day. And, they make the drop off and all this stuff. And they go back to Pop's debrief later, right? And they're like talking about this whole thing. And Jug says that he wants to go, and like do research about it, you know, and like he thinks that this is maybe a lead. So I'm wondering if we're going to I imagine we're going to come back to this, right? That there's going to be an expansion on what this Riverdale Reaper is or what it means. And I wonder if it isn't the Hood, right? Which I think you're probably right. What is the purpose of it? Why is it being introduced? Is it just to throw us off and make us wonder? Because that feels a little too obvious.
Yeah, well, that was my problem with it, is that when that whole thing was over, it just felt like it had nothing to do with anything afterwards. And it was just like this guy coming just to steal the drugs, probably, because he thought he could, like, it just looked sort of like that, but Jughead and Archie are probably gonna, like, freaking out, and it's just something for them to go on. It just doesn't feel like it's connected, but who knows? I want to be surprised, because it felt so obvious that I felt like it just wouldn't happen, because it's so obvious.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, and I think while it might not be necessarily connected, I could see it, especially if the Black Hood is, you know, of like the age and like the body build. You know, we think the popular theory is he's a white guy, you know, middle-aged. There's a good chance that he was around when this Riverdale Reaper would have been, and so he could be inspired by that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It could be a copycat.
That could, maybe not even necessarily a copycat, but, you know, just someone who went, oh, well, this guy did this, I'm going to do it too.
The thing that's interesting to me, though, is I feel like that doesn't quite match the Black Hood's MO. Like, he murders a family, and, like, it says that, like, he killed 2 kids, too, and I don't think the Hood would do that, right? His whole thing is about sin, and children aren't sinners.
I don't know. I mean, because even, these kids are 16.
But I just might be misremembering, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the creepy gas station man says that he killed, like, young children. No, yeah, and I what I'm saying is I think you're right, but I also, like, you know, our kids are also, they're still kids. They're teenagers, and you know, they're the focus of, like, horror, of, like, the horror genre. You know, they fill all the tropes, but they're still kids. Yeah, I feel like he's just holding them to a different standard because they're old enough to act and do things that are immoral. You know, I agree. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting wrinkle, and I'm sure we'll have more information about it as it comes. Marco, what do you think about this? Do you have any thoughts on this whole Riverdale Reaper business?
I think it's like what Amoona said. It was just like sort of something that, you know, it probably doesn't. He's just trying to say it to scare him more than anything, really. I don't think it has any validity. I don't think we're going to see it again. You don't, even though Jughead said he wants to do research about it. I mean, like, he'll do research, but I think it'll come out like nothing will come up. I think it was just like an element that they threw in there first, like a misdirect. Yeah. I guess we'll have to see. I'm really interested because I really think it could go either way. I'm not really sure. Yeah, and I can see a scenario where like he does pop up again. Like, I mean, the show has surprised us before, so I'm open to not seeing it again and to seeing it again. Yeah, that's for sure. So speaking of surprises, I think there was one more I want to touch on, you know, before we're kind of done with this portion. But let's rewind real quick to their drug deal with the creepy Russian cartoon characters. Oh yeah, Russian or German? Oh god, they were Russian. Okay, they were definitely Russian. Were they? Okay. Yeah, they were like Boris and what's her name from like Rocky and Bullwinkle. You know, I think it's Boris and Natasha. Oh my god, was she wearing a beret? Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh god. And just like, I don't know, like they're just dressed in all black, you know, like they just look so fucking like sinister, so like cartoon comic book villain, you know, like status. It was absolutely classic. Yeah, I don't know, I got a real kick out of that whole exchange, and like it was so short, but I don't know, what did you guys think about that? Oh, it was weird. I was like, what? Am I supposed to be intimidated? Because they were telling Jug, like, oh, he has to do this again. And if I was in his place, I'd be like, It's
like,
I mean,
no
they didn't look
thanks.
scary at all. I mean,
They did have a gun, though.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the scariest thing in the world.
It's America.
Right?
That's fair. All right, fair.
Everybody has a gun, right?
Archie had like 6 of them, so...
Yeah, holy shit. Yeah, oh, I forgot about that. But yeah,
See,
I thought that was crazy.
you see, guys, this is why the only thing to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with the gun, obviously. If
Thanks
Archie
a lot,
still had his
Archie.
gun, they would have been fine.
They could have taken them. Dude, that crate that held the stuff was so big and, like, it looked fucking heavy. I don't know how they just got it on the truck, just like, no big deal. It looked like they could probably take on those people physically.
Like, yeah, like, that crate should have been heavy enough that even if that dude took out that gun, like, they would have walked through the bullets.
You just see Archie, like, freaking, like, big boot kick the old lady in the wheelchair into him, and they just attack him. I mean, he did train to be the Punisher, right? So, we learned here, right, that, she calls Penny the snake charmer, right? That she's promised that Jug's going to be her regular delivery boy. And, that kind of all plays into the conclusion of this storyline, right? After that debrief at Pops, it's basically sun up. Jug says he's going to go visit FP, and he goes to check on him, and he realizes that he isn't hurt.
Dude, he could have just called him.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, you know.
Thought he was hurt and you didn't call him to check. Dad, are you okay?
Yeah. His first reaction was, oh shit, I better go run some drugs.
I know. That was definitely like, and like, I get it because of the way it was presented, right? Like, he trusted her, and it's like, he's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I've got to go right now because it's almost sundown. It's like, okay, fine. But like, no, that was exactly my thought too. It was like, really? Like, don't make a call, like, nothing? Like, no, like, he told you to look out for her. You didn't think maybe? But to be fair, I didn't either. Like, when this reveal happened, I was like, oh shit. Like, I was not expecting that. Were you guys?
I mean, my first impulse would have been to call.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But it's like, comic book writer Kurt Busiek says a lot. If you pull that yarn, the sweater's gonna come undone, so.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Speaking of which, I remember a similar thought I had was earlier when they like had the flat and they're like, we can't call Triple C, we have the drugs. I was like, take the crate off and go hide it in the woods you broke down near, get a fresh tire, and pull that shit back out. Like,
they mentioned calling Kevin, and I actually thought that was kind of a good idea. I think it would have been a really good thing to have a Kevin, Archie, and Jughead like moment. I think that would have added a lot of stuff to Kevin's character, at least.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen that for sure. And it's like they said, it totally made sense. Like, he has a truck. Like,
yeah. But he was with Veronica, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. So then we get the conclusion of this, right? It's like she's gonna blackmail him now. She's got a video, and he's in. Like, he's fucked. And he's like horrified by this, and he asks her like, why? Like, why are you doing this to me? And she says, FP made a promise he didn't keep. As far as I'm concerned, his debt is yours, and I'm just getting started with you. It's just like, oof, like, fuck. He is in trouble. Right? That's what I wrote. I literally wrote in my notes, fuck this bitch.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
But I wanted to really call this out. Not only is this is a huge story development, but I really wanted to applaud the show because I think, we like regularly playfully throw around the term that this show's trash, right? That it's like, it's trashy TV. And that's part of why we love it. But I definitely think it's a lot smarter than we give it credit for sometimes, We've talked about how the characters are surprisingly mature, but the thing that I loved about this was we've been so convinced for weeks, right? Kale put forward this theory that we all kind of thought was going to come to fruition, that Jughead would get pulled into some violent situation, hurt somebody, and that would be his, oh shit, I'm in too deep moment. Mm-hmm. Not something like this. Not that he was going to fuck up and get blackmailed, and that now his reputation is on the line, that, the life that he has that's established in Riverdale is in jeopardy.
I still think that moment's coming.
Maybe so.
Because I think the fact that he tells Archie at the end of the episode, listen, I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to do my best to figure out what to do to get out of this. I think even with her blackmail, I think that's still going to be the case. Just given by the fact that, we still have 12 more episodes of the season. So
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they'll all get to New York to live in the East Village, which doesn't exist anymore yet.
Yeah, what was that comment? One.
I turned to Jess and I went, "What? An artist and a musician in the East Village? Are you fucking kidding me?"
That's like all you see on the corners.
Yeah.
Guys, it's because
in the coffee shops there.
That's because Archie is a fucking wannabe artist living in middle America, and he's basing his view of New York off of the Beatles in the 70s, guys.
I said, okay, it's a dream. Okay, all right, fine.
And Jughead's the realist, where he's like, I'm pretty sure that the East Village doesn't exist.
Oh, bless him. He has dreams.
It's a nice dream. Nice dream. I thought it was cute. I'd watch that spinoff.
No.
I'd watch it.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
The Park Avenue review.
Ooh, I'm there for that.
Yeah, I'd watch that. I'd do that one.
All right, so moving along, the next story we got was about Josie, which I was really, really happy to finally get some time with Josie again.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've been talking about this all season, but I think we've specifically been complaining about it the last couple episodes of what's going on with Josie? We knew that she was going to be brought up to a more prominent status this season because of the way that contracts work out. But we really haven't gotten much time with her at all, up until now. She's been in maybe 2 or 3 other scenes, where she's had a few lines, but excluding when her and the Pussycats just fucking curb stomped what's his name? Nick, right?
Nick, yeah.
Nicholas,
Nick.
yeah. She really hasn't had much to do this season. So her getting her own storyline was I thought really a breath of fresh air. Not only just to get time with her, but also just for the sake of the show, because she has just a totally different perspective on this whole issue. Obviously what's going on in town is still affecting her, but she's not wrapped up in it in the same way that the main 4 characters are.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really fun angle to get.
And she's also the mayor's daughter, so that also affects her in just a totally different way.
Yeah, and I really liked the stuff we got with her and Mayor McCoy this time around, because it really felt like, I feel like their relationship hasn't been explored as much as it could be, because there's a lot there. And it was fun to get an insight into Mayor McCoy in a way that we do with some of the other parents that we really don't with her. She's generally presented as an obstacle, not a person.
And she's just as unlikable as the rest of them.
Well, I don't know. I felt some sympathy for her this episode. I think she's done a lot of things, that I found to be very unlikable. But, I mean, she's just afraid. And that's human. I get where she's coming from. I understand why she's concerned for her, and now for her daughter,
I guess. I don't know. It just didn't feel like, and maybe all of those things are true, but just the fact that we weren't given, the notices or the, the letters, we never saw them. It just kind of hinted to me, and with the fact that Sheriff Keller was in the, in every scene with her and Josie, it just, to me, it stank more of manipulation.
That's what it seemed like to me. I agree.
Especially with, the reveal at the end of the Sheriff Keller bit, the Betty and Veronica part.
Sure.
It just, it all really cemented, Mayor McCoy wants Josie in the house so that she knows where she is, so that Josie doesn't catch her sneaking around and sleeping with the sheriff.
I'm sure that's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like I said, we never saw the note, the death threats, the notes, and the horrible language. And though that very well could be true, but like I said, to me, it still smacked of manipulation.
Yeah, and I think that's fair.
I did also, sorry, I did also just want to call out, I think it was Betty who called, Betty Felon, who called out the relationship between Cheryl and and Josie. So shout outs there.
No, that was Olivia.
Was it Olivia? Well, there you go.
That was Olivia. Olivia said that she was shipping them hard, and right. that came home to roost, right? I mean, so yeah, let's talk about this, right? So I loved a lot of this. I would have liked to have gotten a whole episode about Josie, but what we got here I thought was great. You know, I think the horror scenes with her in the hallways were particularly effective, and that shower scene that we teased earlier. But so yeah, let's talk about this whole dynamic she's got going with Cheryl now.
Maybe don't call it a shower scene. That definitely has connotations that are just a little different from what you're saying they are.
But it's a locker room scene. There you go. That sounds better. That sounds better. Not much better. But yeah, let's talk about this dynamic that she's got with Cheryl, right? So she's stressed out, right? Her mother's stressing her out. She's, working on music behind the Pussycat's back because Cheryl, is trying to connect her with that family friend at that record label that we talked about in season 1. And it was kind of clear to me from the beginning that Cheryl was playing her, that she had an ulterior motive to drive a wedge between her and the Pussycats to kind of work herself in there. And when you see how that plays out between her manipulation of Chuck's feelings for her, placing the secret admirer stuff, utilizing the janitor, all like Cheryl is masterminding this whole thing to try and get closer to Josie. And it was concerning. That reveal of her drawing that picture, I was like, oh my God. I know I've always thought Cheryl was a little crazy, but this is this is American Psycho shit, Yeah. So what did you guys think about this whole subplot? What do you think Cheryl's motive is? Is it just to be best friends, or do you think that she wants something more?
It came as a surprise to me, honestly. I did not see that coming. I knew Cheryl was crazy. She has the crazy eyes. I knew she was crazy.
That's for sure.
But she kind of always manages to surprise me in certain situations. Yeah. Sometimes she's genuine, and sometimes she's just doing things because it would benefit her, and she's obviously very shallow. So it's always been a whirlwind with Cheryl, and I don't know how to feel about her because I'm always this is who you are, and then it turns out that she's not like that. So at the beginning of this whole Josie thing, I kind of thought that she was being genuine because this was after a trauma, and so I was like, she wouldn't be trying to manipulate somebody, especially when she was so broken up about this in the last episode. So I completely didn't see that. Now I don't know how to feel about Cheryl. I think, I'm not sure what she's trying to get out of it. I know that's what you asked. I still don't see what she wants. Is it that she just wants a person who will be there for her because now she feels I don't know. I think Cheryl is the type of person who will try to get a person who's doing well and is popular, somebody like Josie, and she wants them on her side. And I think this is a part of it, but it could be that she's also gay, and that wasn't really explored before.
No,
but I think I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, and her sexuality hasn't been explored very much.
No, I mean, I kind of thought she was into her brother, but that was it.
Right.
So at the very least, it's complicated.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm with you where I could see it being either. I don't know if it's just in she just wants somebody that's hers, or is that she does have some weird displaced romantic feelings for her that she's expressing in this really destructive way. I don't know. I don't. It just. I can't imagine what else she has to gain other than control over Josie. But to what end, right? Is it just because she wants a best friend, or because she's trying to, make her a lover or something?
Yeah, her intentions have always been crazy. That's the thing with Cheryl.
She's so unpredictable.
Yeah. I don't know what she wants out of this. Is it like she genuinely thinks that she is doing something good for Josie, so that Josie can see that, oh, in the end, Cheryl is like, the one to turn to. And so from her end, it'll look like she's doing it for a good reason.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Does she have like genuine intentions?
Yeah, because she made that comment in the beginning about helping her career blossom, right? And like maybe that is her desire, and she thinks, well, the Pussycats are holding her back, so I need to drive a wedge between them because she won't.
But she also used the word blossom, which, as we know, is every member of the Blossoms family favorite word.
Yep.
I legitimately, that was a big clue to me that something was off.
Yeah.
So like we've already established, like Cheryl's very complicated. We don't know what her sexuality is. She may very well just be looking to Josie to, have a genuine friendship where someone doesn't want something from Cheryl, The problem here, and what makes this so hard to read, is that the only way Cheryl has been taught and shown to love is by exerting complete and utter manipulation and control over that person.
I guess except for her brother, right?
Yeah, but he's gone now. And even
Sure.
still, their parents exerted that over them.
Right.
So, like, that's what makes this so hard to read, because, like, if it's a woman loving another woman relationship, that's a really problematic, like, gay trope that could go down a very bad, problematic road. Don't get me wrong, great for storytelling, but as for representation and, like, the only, so not the only, gay female representation, but with a main character, like, that would be very problematic and there would be a lot of issues with it.
Yeah, well, at the very least, it certainly runs that risk, right?
Right.
Because it's a well-worn trope, for sure.
And yeah, like we said, like Amoona, addressed, like, with Cheryl and Riverdale in general, like, they continue to surprise us with how both mature and genuine they can be, but it's also a CW show, and as we've addressed, like, this show, it's a little trashy.
Sure. I think the one point I would make to challenge, I guess, the problematic nature of it is I think that storyline would be problematic if it was Kevin, because Kevin's identifies as a gay man. We've talked about how Cheryl's sexuality is ambiguous, and I don't know that it's going to be the closeted homosexual, who's crazy thing. I think it's that Cheryl is crazy and has a obsession with Josie, which is why I use the term misplaced feelings, right? Is that I don't think that these are earnest feelings. I think it's a weird admiration, obsession with her because she saved her and because Cheryl's a fucking crazy person. Like, she's legitimately off her rocker. So it's almost like, not only unfair, but I think we do ourselves a disservice to try and judge her actions by the same barometer that we judge normal people's, because she is so unpredictable. So unless anybody has any final thoughts on the Josie and Cheryl section, let's move along to Betty and Veronica.
The introduction of the janitor was
yeah, that's a good point. I would like to talk about him.
Twist. I could see that going down a sort of stereotypical horror route where he shows up and it felt a lot to me like maybe he was genuinely stalking,
Yeah,
Josie
he's a bigger player.
Yeah.
So I thought that too, but I actually think he was a red herring. I think we were supposed to think he was the stalker until we revealed that it's actually Cheryl.
I think it was a red herring for the events of this episode.
You think it's going to come back?
Yeah.
I wonder, because I actually think that if he does come back, I kind of have a feeling that he's going to fulfill a different trope. I think it might be more like The Shining, where, like, he might show up and, like, save the day, and be the, like, oh, it's the blue-collar layman who was, like, hanging around in the background you thought was creepy, but actually he's a good guy.
Sure.
Just because I think it was so obvious the way that they kept cutting to him. You know, just like, oh, he's kind of creepy, right? He's kind of creepy. But it's really Cheryl. And
but I think that could serve those dual purposes.
Yeah, to make us think that it was a redirect, so that we're like, oh, he's fine. And then, yeah, that's totally possible too. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I did forget to touch on him.
Girl, I know.
I guess real quick before we move on to, do you guys want to just briefly touch on Chuck? What did you think about his whole return this episode and his coming on to Josie? Did you believe that he was earnestly changing for the better?
I think so, but I'm an optimist in that sense, and so I don't know. Like
I like to see the good in people.
Yeah, like when Nick came back and was like, "Oh, I'm changing," you know, like for like a second, like I believed it, and then like he did what he did. So
that's
like,
right.
I don't know.
You said your brother was like, "Nah, watch this."
Yeah. So like, you know, like I think he is. I think he's being genuine, but we'll see. I've been wrong before.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, why not?
I learned not to trust those kinds of dudes.
There it is.
There you go.
That's I wanted to hear that.
That's real life topical experience. So
he was the one who Dark Betty got
Yes.
up to, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of went both ways. The big issue for me was that let's put it out there. He basically kidnapped Josie and took her to Pops.
Yep. That was my problem with it. And I know it seems cute and like, you know, innocent. It's like, no. The girl wanted to go home.
Yep. She
Why did you take her somewhere
already
else?
turned him down. Nope. Sorry, dude.
That's true. I guess the issue there is that they don't show you the way that she says yes. And I think like you're right that implication there was a little bit like, come on, you know? Because like I think like if it was like a thing of like, you know, he's like, oh, I'll buy you cheese fries. And she's like, okay, fine. That's one thing. Because like she came at it with like, this isn't a date, right? Like I didn't acquiesce. But then it very much turns into a date. So yeah, I'm with you too on that one as well. Is that like, if you are going to do that trope, you should show that it's not playing out in a stereotypical problematic kind of way. Especially when like they make a point of her turning him down, being like, I don't go out with misogynistic, chauvinistic, like, you know, woman disrespecters or something like that.
And he did exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then she still went ahead and danced on him. Like, girl, no.
Also, what was up with that? Like, why do these two millennials know how to do the twist? That's my question.
I was down for it. I don't know. I was there. I was like, all right.
No, like, it was cool, but like, could you do the twist that well?
No.
Right.
I could.
There you go.
Shit, all right, never mind. I stand corrected.
I hope that he's trying to get back at though. Because, like, it's always nice to see change. But I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm apprehensive, but I think the way that he was used this episode leads me to believe that he is earnestly changing, because I think we're supposed to feel sympathy for him in that moment where he gets thrown under the bus, you know? Because it wasn't him.
Oh yeah, I did feel bad for him at that point. Yeah.
And I did think it was also cute, on, you know, their date that wasn't a date, where Pops comes up and is like, oh, it was great to see you at church. And she's like, what? No way. Did you fucking plan that? And he's like, look, I'm good, but I'm not that good. I was like, okay, all right. Maybe there's earnest growth to be had here. So, you know, we'll have to see. All right, so let's wrap things up with another BNV adventure. So this was, I think, probably my favorite part of the episode. I loved everything about the way that this was framed. The Betty and Veronica theme that they were playing, like every time that they were snooping around Nancy Drew style, was like amazing. It was like do 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 do. It was just like, I loved it. But, you know, so we kick it off with Betty in Jughead's bed, and they're like kind of debriefing. That's how the episode starts, and then we pick up again from her perspective later on. And, she seems to feel somewhat guilty that she got Mr. Phillips killed, but I really feel like she's more concerned with answering the question that we all were, which is, how the hell did the Black Hood get in the police station?
Oh, no. I just, that scene in the beginning. Because, Jughead already did the bad thing, the last episode. I don't know how they're, okay.
What bad
or
thing?
am I mistaken? Slept with Pony?
No, they didn't sleep together.
Oh.
She slept at his house because she had been thrown out of her uncle's house, but they say that they kissed, but they didn't have sex.
Right.
Yeah.
And not to be Ross from Friends, but
They were on a break.
Okay. I forgot.
And she was the one that did the dumping, too. It wasn't his heart was broke. She had his best friend show up to his house and break up with him.
I mean, how else do you
It
do
was
it?
necessary at the time. She had to do what she had to do.
look,
Hey, I'm not throwing her under the bus. I'm just
Nobody's
defending
arguing that.
his 13-year-old makeout session.
Yeah, going back again, I think Betty is desperate. That's what I got from all of this. She's
Girl, she's
grasping
thirsty.
all of the strings, and she's just trying to get on any kind of lead that she can conjure up. Because I felt like she was going after a wild goose chase.
Oh my god, yeah, the whole Sheriff Keller thing was come on, I thought Veronica was so on point. She's like, haven't you known him since you were 5? Do you really think he's come on? But was anybody else impressed by Veronica's intuition there? She called that from a fucking mile away.
That girl knows an affair when she sees one.
It's funny too because I literally wrote in giant all text when they revealed the thing. I was like, oh holy shit, Veronica's woman's intuition is on point. And then immediately afterwards she was like, wow, I didn't realize my woman's intuition was that on point.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Is it weird that Kevin and Veronica had a sleepover? I know I'm
I don't think
old and
so.
I'm kind of out of touch. Is that weird? Two
Why would it be weird?
16-year-olds?
For 16-year-olds to have a sleepover?
I don't think it's weird.
Dude,
not weird.
my
It feels
girlfriend.
inappropriate.
My girlfriend's 24. Wait, you mean being a guy and her as a woman? What do you mean, that?
Yeah.
Or
And what
just in
about it is
general?
inappropriate? Just that they're old?
Well, that they're of sexual maturity.
Sorry, Grandpa, you're out of touch.
Yeah.
But look, that's fine.
Yeah, he's
That's fine.
gay. They're not gonna have sex.
Well, even if he wasn't gay, I wouldn't think it's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your friend.
I said I'm old, I'm out of touch. I prefaced all that. I get it.
I could see
I just
you
wanted to
thinking
make
it's weird
sure.
for two sexually mature people of the opposite sex to have a sleepover. I get that. I feel like in this scenario, it's not weird.
Okay. All right.
And I'm not even saying that I think it's weird, right? If you have a platonic relationship, that's fine.
And I'm not trying to put my, quote unquote conservative views on anything.
my Christian moralistic upbringing.
No, my first reaction was, oh, what, really?
That's funny. Yeah.
The way they came about it was weird because we didn't really see Veronica and Kevin express a very, very close relationship. It was Kevin and Betty,
Yeah.
that's normal. And so I felt like it was a little bit weird how Kevin didn't suspect anything. Veronica.
Just to challenge that, they have been shown to be a little closer this season because especially when Betty freaked out on Veronica, there was that few days or whatever where the two of them were hanging out without her. So
Yeah.
I think you're right that they haven't been shown to have a close relationship, but I definitely think we're supposed to believe they have a relationship that exists outside of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they've definitely been coming closer, but it did seem like the whole invitation, she invited herself to his house, basically.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere. It seems kind of suspicious.
I think it does, but I guess I took it to be that from his perspective, them accusing his dad of anything is so far from his mind that he was probably just yeah, okay, cool. Let's have maybe it is weird, but not something that he would be why,
Yeah.
You know, it's like they are friends, and like he is going through a hard time. Like, you know, he expresses all this concern he's having for his dad, and she's like, "Yeah, like let's take your mind off this and hang out or whatever." And I think it's weird, but I don't think it's like suspect. You know?
Yeah, I guess that's true. It wasn't like that weird.
But, you know, like, yeah, like, they're grilling him, you know, we get all this information that, like, he basically says, like, he thinks his dad's, like, acting like a different person. You know, he's running around at odd hours, he's not eating, he's not sleeping, and that's, you know, when we get the two theories from the girls that lead us down this rabbit hole, right? Betty thinks he's the hood, and Veronica thinks he's having an affair. As we've already said, obviously Veronica ends up being correct, but this leads us to a ton of fun, you know, she breaks into their house, they go on a stakeout session, like, yeah, it's, some quality Nancy Drew stuff here.
I like the moment where, she's like, oh, hey Kevin, I'm kind of like thirsty, I'm gonna go downstairs and grab something. So yeah, okay. And then like, she bumps into the dad, and there was like all this awkward like sexual tension. It was like, oh, and I was like, oh, I guess it's Sheriff Keller, the DILF. Okay.
Oh my god, I loved that, because I literally wrote in my notes, I was like, you know, she goes snooping, and again, another great horror scene of it sounding like he's doing something sinister in the basement, and then it just turns into Silver Fox fan service of like, ooh, I never knew Sheriff Keller was such a DILF.
Yeah, in the middle of the scene, I went, are they gonna fuck?
It's funny too, because I feel like he's like that too. Like, he's like, what is your angle right now?
Yeah, he totally was. He totally was.
But yeah, I thought it was just like, I literally wrote here, I was like, honestly, a little weird to be this flirty with your friend shirtless dad, Veronica. Like, I love when she's like, oh, Archie Andrews better watch out. And I was like, he's gotta be like 50. Like,
I mean, you know, if you got it.
Oh god, that moment was just so weird. That's what I remember most from the show, because it's like Veronica vibing at that moment. And I was like, dude, what do you want to get out of this information?
I think we're lucky Kevin came down.
Oh my god, yeah.
So that Veronica could remember what she was doing.
Did anybody else, was anybody else like surprised to hear that Kevin had a mother? Because I was. I totally thought he was a single father.
Yeah. I mean, well, technically he is right now.
But no, they're married though. It's like she's on deployment. He's raising his son alone right now. But it's right. You know, she's like in the picture. Like, she still lives at their house and everything. Like, yeah. So it was just so.
That was news.
I think I wrote in my notes, I was like, the fuck? I had no idea Kevin even had a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did think it was like a dead mom sort of situation, because he never really talked about her. So, like, they were divorced, he would still be talking about her, but.
Right.
My shitty ex-wife.
None of those are true.
Yeah, right. I thought maybe she, like, walked out on the family or something. Like, there was going to be some, you know, because one of the things that we talk about this almost every time Kevin comes up, because usually there's something to do with Sheriff Keller. They have a really sweet relationship, you know, and, like, they seem like they're very close. So I always got the impression that it was, like, single dad, you know, dead mom abandoned them or whatever, and they're super close because of that. But I guess he's just, you know, they just have a good relationship, and mom's out and about.
I feel like the dead mom would, like, service that a little more, you know? Like, I mean, you can be totally super close with your dad. That's legit. But I feel like the fact that we hadn't seen her and didn't know this information previously to this episode really sort of didn't work for what we thought we knew, you know? Yeah,
that headcanon worked for me. Of, like, you know, because I always said, like, I like that he's kind of this, like, oh, you know, man's a man sheriff in small town Riverdale, but, like, he's super cool about his son being gay or whatever, and, like, I was like, okay, cool, like, that's very, like, you know, obviously that's the ideal, right? Like, you should love your kids no matter what. But it was a thing that I remember the first time we dealt with it, it was, like, kind of a refreshing thing, and I remember feeling like it felt reinforced for me that, like, yeah, like, well, they just have a really good understanding because they're so close, because they're all the other has, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you know, without going through every single one of these kind of scenes or whatever, I did want to just say, like, I love the whole dynamic between Betty and Veronica this episode. It's so good to see them as a team again. But specifically, again, just like the way it was shot, I loved all the scenes where it was like the swoop in side by side and they're like on the phone together, like, you know, talking through the case and everything. And she's like, "You're there without me while we're on a case." And she's like, "This isn't a case. Like, what are you talking about?"
And then also, how dare you? You're there without me?
Yeah. And then I guess the last thing I wanted to touch on before, you know, because we talked about it, right? There's the reveal, him and Mayor McCoy are sleeping together. Obviously, that's going to come back to, you know, that's going to matter in the future. I know that's going to, you know, get dealt with, but there's not too much else to say about it.
I bet we see one of them die. I bet the Hood goes after one of them.
It's possible, but I wonder just because they don't have other parents. So, like, unless they reintroduce Kevin's mom to come home and take care of him, or Josie's dad comes back, like, if their parents get killed, like, where do they go?
Yeah, that's a real thought. That's still my theory, is he's gonna go after one of them.
I think he'll definitely go after them. I don't know that they'll die. Because I think even Betty says, right, oh, Riverdale's list of sinners keeps expanding.
Yeah.
After they find that out about them. So I think that's definitely supposed to be a hint that they're on the chopping block. It's just a matter of what actually happens. But I thought it was interesting, the scene, just to touch on it, where Betty and her father go down to the sheriff's station after she gets caught, having broken into Sheriff Keller's office, right? And she admits why she was there and everything. You know, he says he understands how she can make that conclusion with an overactive imagination, and like he's very fair to her about it. You know, he shows her the logbook, gives her the alibi, and says he's not going to tell Kevin because she's, you know, been a really good friend to him, and he, you know, thinks it's going to break his heart. And it was funny because I remember feeling like that was kind of supposed to make us suspicious of him, the way that he handled it, but I honestly think it just seemed like he was kind of hurt a little bit. You know, like that he was like, I can't believe you would suspect me of doing this, almost. What was your guys' read on that?
Honestly, the same. I felt the same. I felt like he was genuinely kind of upset about it, but also kind of doesn't want her to snoop around, obviously, because of his affair.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a lot of it was that.
Yeah, it's also, like, you know, she broke into his house. Hey, man, don't do that. Like, I'm still not 100% sold on the fact that he's not the Hood. I think all of that stuff is, I mean, I guess it's not circumstantial, but, I mean, it feels convenient. Like, it's the kind of thing that any other show would turn into, like, a great twist, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of times I find myself, like, playing 4D chess with Riverdale, where I'm like, so they wouldn't do this because I think that they're going to do this, right? So what's the subversion of the thing that I think is going to happen? Because that's generally what they do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think it's him, because I think we got the answer of what the wrinkle was with him. Oh, he's having an affair. Veronica was right. And that doesn't mean he's not the Hood, but I don't think he is. Especially because I feel like that would be hypocritical, right? Like, he's sinning. He's supposed to be killing sinners. It just, I don't know. It feels...
Every villain is the hero in their own story.
Fair enough.
I feel like it's going to shock us. Like, I feel like we're going to find out something like one of the moms is the Black Hood. I don't know why. I just feel like
that would be crazy.
They just really want to just, like, what would really shock me? I think that would shock me.
What if it were Archie's mom?
That would be so weird. That wouldn't even be good. Because, like, we have so little attachment to her.
Yeah.
What if it was Fred Andrews and he shot himself?
Listen, don't you give me ideas. Alice. Alice would be a really good twist, I think.
FP has been breaking out of jail every night and committing crimes.
I mean, if somebody can break in, they can definitely break out.
Boom. Boom. You heard it here first. All these terrible theories.
Amoona, do you have a personal pet theory of who the Hood is?
The Black.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's been kind of sitting on the back burner because, like, I'm more the type, like, I want to see the mystery unravel because I care more about the characters and how they interact with each other. So it's always been like, it's just like I'm waiting for it to happen. So I'm not really, it's not something that I care about the most. Yeah. I care more about what the characters are doing.
You like the journey more than the
the
reveal itself. All right. I respect that.
Yeah, I would sound the same way. So that's actually a perfect transition into our conclusion here. So all the stories, even as loosely connected as they were, right? We discuss how they kind of weirdly touch over each other in a lot of little fun, directive ways. But they all kind of sync up at Pops, for one final debrief. And, we see the other side of Archie and Jughead's conversation from Pops where, Betty and Veronica are already there. They agreed that they're going to hold on to this secret about Mr. Keller, to, preserve Kevin's view of his father, and not expose this affair because I guess it's really not their place. That's a tough thing, right? Like, I remember thinking, I was like, ooh, like, do you tell your friend that one? And it's like, I don't know. I feel like you probably should tell him, but at the same time, I totally get why they would not do that. Like, what did you guys think about that?
I wouldn't tell my friends. More like, not because I would think it's a good idea, because I think the good idea would be to tell them. But I'm more of an emotional person, and I wouldn't want them to feel hurt. So I get where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if it were me, specifically in Betty and Veronica's situation, I don't think I would at all, because they're sneaking around having stakeouts and, like, it's weird.
That's fair.
But
they'd have to admit that they, like, tailed his dad.
Yeah.
But in any other situation, I think I would go to the cheater first and say, hey, listen, I know this is what you're doing. Either knock it off or, like, come clean.
Yeah, that's fair. So then we also get, a few booths back up against the back wall at the conclusion of Cheryl and Josie's story. So the last bit of Josie's story that we didn't touch on is that, she has this nightmare after all this stress, right? She gets confronted by the Pussycats, the band breaks up. She's got this stress from her mother. Like, she finds out that her mother's getting these death threats and that someone's threatened her. And then she has the nightmare where we kind of finally get the full spooky reveal of the lyrics of this song that's been a motif throughout her whole story. And she gets her throat slit by the Black Cloud. Black Hood.
That dream, I didn't expect it to be a dream. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, she's just chilling. And I thought, like, the janitor was coming over, like, for real. And I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, no. No. He's getting closer. The music's getting a little louder. Like, no, come on. It's like, it's Josie. Like, no. And then slits. So I was like, oh! My mouth was wide open, way past her waking up from that dream. Like, her just, like, reaching and gasping for, like, that. I was like, whoa,
they held on it for a second, too.
That's significant just because she's also a singer. So, like, it was huge. I was like, whoa, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminded me a lot of that scene with Kevin from a few episodes back where we saw him get killed in that dream sequence as well. And it was just like, I took it for fact. It was like, no.
Yeah, same. I thought it was real. I actually freaked out. I was like, holy fuck, you did not do that.
Yeah.
And then she wakes up. I'm like, okay, I'm fine. We're all good.
It's like, can we please not kill the only black main character? Can we not do that, television?
Well, she's not the only one.
She's the only main character. You think the other...
Main?
I would consider her, like, main cast adjacent.
Yeah.
I would say, like, the main characters are, like, the core four, and then right outside of that is, like, Cheryl, Josie, and Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
They're, like, main minor cast. Yeah. Whereas, like, there's Val, and then, like, the third pussycat, whose name that I don't even know. Does anyone know her name? Because I wrote it down. I was like, 3 times. I was like, wait, what's her name again? I was like, you know what? I'm not going to look up her name, and I'm going to ask the other people. Does anybody know her fucking name?
No.
Damn straight.
I did not like her.
Oh,
she came out of nowhere with all these lines and all this attitude. Like, girl, I don't even know you.
The thing I thought was the funniest about it was, like, in the scene where they break up, right? Like, Val leaves, and she calls after Val, and the third pussycat stays and says something else and leaves, and I'm like, are you seriously not going to say her name? Yep. She's the only one who I don't know who she is. This is like her second line in the whole series.
She reminded me of Beyonce in Austin Powers Goldmember.
Oh.
Yeah, same haircut.
I'm Foxy Cleopatra, and I'm a whole lot of woman.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I didn't care for her very much. I agree with Kale. I felt like I don't know. They didn't really make us care about her. I cared a lot about Val. Like, I wish she was more main, personally, because I feel like, I don't know, she's just like nice and grounded person. And they're all so messed up. Even Betty, who's meant to be nice, she literally broke into a person's house to prove that they're killing other people. And it's like a person that she's known her entire life, so she is messed up.
Yeah, the thing I would say my biggest complaint with Val is also her biggest strength is that her involvement in the show as a main cast member was so limited, but I like the way that they handled that, was that the whole thing of like her and Archie dating and him being a shitty boyfriend, and he like tries to apologize and she's like, no, like you don't get another chance, fuck you. Like I'm not here for you to like, hang out with me when it's convenient and blow me off. It's like, forget you. And I was like, yeah, good for you. Like, you go. But it's also like, well, does that mean you can't be in the show anymore? Like, fuck.
Yeah. You're not going to play ball. You don't get to be in the show.
I guess.
Or at least with, like, Josie, like, in scenes where, like, if we're going to get more of Josie, then I feel like we should get more of Pussycat.
Yeah, I just wonder if that's going to be the case now that they are kind of written out because they're not a band anymore. Like, I'm sure they'll get back together.
Yeah.
But this whole thing with Cheryl, I think, is going to be separate from them for a while. Right. So, I mean, hopefully we're wrong. Hopefully they'll be hanging around in the background and the friction between her and the two of them will be a part of her plot moving forward, which, I mean, would make sense, right? They're her two closest friends, so.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. So then the last bit we get is, we just kind of get a retread of the scene of Jug and Archie, and we see Jug leave just before we get another phone call from the Hood, right? Which was a
phone call. Pops, that's for me. Hello? Hello?
This is the Black Hood.
Yeah, I've been phoning it in this episode. Alright, that's it. Sorry, that was my bit. Let's keep it going. I had to wrap that up.
That was a good one, buddy.
I'm gonna kill you for your lack of enthusiasm for the show Riverdale. Put in more effort.
That's pretty good.
So, the episode closes with, we learn that we have failed the Hood's test, that we are all sinners and reckoning is upon us.
I mean, good. I hope he comes after me. Like, I'll let him.
You let him.
I'm tired.
Care Ward, sinner.
Sinners. Plus, he's like going after teenagers and people living their lives. They're all gonna fucking sin all the time. Isn't he a sinner? I mean, he kills people. Come on.
Yeah, right. Isn't wrath one of the 7 deadly sins?
Yeah.
There you go.
We'll see. But yeah, so I mean, Kale, you already asked Amoona my question that I like to ask the guests of who do you think the Black Hood is, but I guess I wanted to just circle back to the murders teased at the top, right? And that this is obviously the start of this new chapter, this new storyline. So I want to ask, what do we think is going on and who's going down? Do you have any theories about who's going to die? Because we have these clues, right? So just to refresh your memory, we have the clues that there are 3 murders that take place. And that they're so tragic because those who bore witness to them were so young, and that the latest chapters began here and today with the note.
So I just came up with this because of the way you asked this question. I think it'll be the farmer because he tried to steal from Jughead, the Herald guy.
Sure.
I think it'll be, what was the second part? Cheryl and Josie. I think it'll be the janitor or...
Mm-hmm.
I'm torn there. I think it'll be the janitor or Chuck.
Oh.
Okay. I can see Chuck. Yeah. Or the janitor, of course.
And then really unsure about Betty and Veronica. I'm going to stand by the mayor or sheriff or the sheriff. And maybe they won't die, but I think they will be attacked. So they may see 2 murders and not necessarily 3.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I can see that. I think I agree. Yeah, the other driver, I think it might be Chris, right?
Chuck.
What was his name? Chuck, sorry.
Chuck, yeah.
Chuck. Yeah, I think the mayor and sheriff are two central, like are minor characters big enough that they won't like be killed. But I can see a situation where they get like attacked and survive or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I myself, I really have no idea. You know, I have a hard time predicting what's going to happen in this show. You know, because they really are good at creating twists that. Because they do such a good job of presenting you with enough to come up with theories that you're like, well, this will probably be the twist that they'll do, right? And then they don't do that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't actually think that any of the things I think might happen will happen. Because they're too obvious. So, I don't know. I really don't. I don't even know that it's going to necessarily be anybody, like, super relevant. I think it's, like, totally possible that, like, maybe the Hood, like, kidnaps them or something, and we get a scene where they're all, like, tied up and he murders somebody in front of them. Like, who knows? You know, like, I think, you know, Amoona, you said at the top that it seems like the implication is that one of these characters is going to die, or that these three groups of kids are going to be the ones that see the murder, right? Or that to see the three murders. I think that's pretty much a foregone conclusion. They're going to be the three that see the violence, but I have no idea who it's going to be against.
Do you think it's relevant, like, who stood up when Pops was announcing the call? So, like, Archie stood up. I think Cheryl stood up. I want to say it was Veronica.
And Betty stayed seated?
I think so.
I don't know. I don't know that that's important. I didn't think about it, but I don't remember feeling that it had any significance.
Me neither. What about Penny? Like, what is her role in all of this? I mean, she's come back.
Hopefully it's to die.
Yeah. For some revenge, apparently, on Jughead.
I feel like Penny's whole angle is just that she has a debt that's not paid with FP. And it's as simple as family drama. Like, I don't know that she fits into the larger story. I think she's just a means to an end for forcing Jughead further down the path of being a serpent, which is kind of his major character arc this season.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's just I feel for him. I feel like my heart's broken just seeing him so tortured all the time.
That's the beauty of the show, though. You know, he's it's just so funny because like there's so much like classic like 50s and 60s like golden age Archie imagery that they sneak into this show, and I always like just think of him at like what's that movie, Crybaby, or like the book The Outsiders, like those like classic stories of just like sensitive greaser boys who are like come from downtrodden homes and they just want love, and so everybody loves Jughead except Matt Murphy, but he's a trash panda.
Yeah. Oh bless him. I love Jughead.
Oh bless him. Like I believe this was Andy Brown on episode 2 of Riverdale Review. He said that Jughead Jones is a national goddamn treasure. And I think that's accurate.
I agree.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Riverdale Review. Remember, if you guys want to write into the show and have your thoughts read on the air about what you think's going on, your theories for the episodes moving forward, or you know any of the stuff that we talked about today, you can shoot us an email at thecomicspals@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on social media at thecomicspals, wherever your social media is sold, and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. And, Amoona, please, if you could, again, just, you know, let the people know where they can find you all over the interwebs if they want to connect with you. Remind them of the books that you work on so they can go check them out and help you pay your bills.
All right. So you can find me by simply Googling Amoona Saohin. And on Instagram, I'm Moonstagram. And on Twitter, I'm Amoona Saohin. And on the internet, like my website is amoona.net, and there you can find my artwork. I am currently not doing art professionally, but hopefully in the future I will be, and I'm currently editing comic books, and I do work on a lot of Titan Comics titles, but the main ones that I am an editor on are the Warhammer line and Sherlock comic, so check those out.
That's a manga, right? The Sherlock.
Yeah,
it is. Sherlock manga.
It is. It's so beautifully done. It's like I didn't think that I would want to revisit the Sherlock BBC like TV show. That's what the manga is based off of.
Huh.
But they draw it, it's drawn in such a beautiful way that you don't really mind going through the story again. And I love it. It's like, it's the best part of my day. Just like lettering and editing the book, and I have to watch the TV show basically just so I can get the feel right to it, and it's always refreshing. I feel like it's a really good one.
That's awesome. We'll have to have you on the Comics Pals one of these days to talk about your work more in depth.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, again, thank you so much for joining us here in the booth today. I hope you had a good time.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Hey, you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, I've been so nervous just doing this. I have such stage fright. I can't even order like pizza on the phone because I'm so stressed out from interacting with people on the phone. It feels so, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of pressure for me to say the right things that I don't know how to say things.
Well, you did a great job. We just talked about Riverdale for what, like an hour and a half, and you killed it. So good job.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. It's mostly down to you guys. You guys have made me feel so comfortable, and I felt really into it. And at the end of the day, it's just talking about what
this trash show that we all love.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is the show of our time, as I said.
It is the show of our time. That is for sure.
I never thought I would like it, actually. I hated the idea of Riverdale when I first found out about it. I just this is the worst thing I ever heard. I normally don't like CW shows because I feel like they're so shallow. But I think it's because I've been watching a lot of really dark and gritty TV show on Netflix. If you guys have seen Thinner or any of the murder documentaries, and so I was like, oh, I need something funny. I need something it's not funny, but it's not as serious. I can not take myself seriously when I watch it, which I find is very great. And the characters, they're so easy to connect. They're not they seem one-dimensional in the beginning, and then you find out more about them. It really keeps getting more and more interesting. And every time I thought, I got this down, I know what it's about, it's not about that. It's about something else. They have there's an overarching story, and the characters, we know who they are, but it just seems to always go sideways. Every time I thought, oh, we're heading down that route. And I always found that very interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a consistently surprising and entertaining show, at the very least.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll have to have you on again sometime, maybe after the mid-season break. But thank you again so much for joining us. And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Riverdale Review. So remember, you guys can catch the show every Wednesday on SoundCloud and YouTube. You can connect with us at thecomicspals@gmail.com, the Comics Pals on your social media sites. And we'll see you next week for another episode of the Riverdale Review. Hey, Pop, checks on the table.
Does Pops do pizza? Is that a thing? Is that a thing? Is that a thing? Is that a thing?